Hey everyone, it's Brock, and today's episode is going to be a little different. This one isn't about a lesson, it's not about a success story or a deep dive into mindset like we usually have, but it's a letter of remembrance to someone who meant the world to me, someone whose story shaped mine in ways that I'm still processing and trying to understand myself. Today is about remembrance, about grief, about love, and about a woman who changed my life in ways I'll never be able to fully explain or understand. Her name was Lori Fletcher, and many of you may know her, but this episode is my tribute to her life that she lived, her love that she had for others, and her legacy that she ultimately left behind. And this episode, this verbal letter, is my way of saying thank you and goodbye. I guess not goodbye, but a see you later, my dear friend. This episode is titled A Letter to Lori, because just a few days ago, on April 6th, 2025, Lori found her eternal home in heaven. The funny thing is, when I got the message, I was sitting in church, and at that very moment, I felt a rush of peace and loss come over me. Peace because I believed that Lori was with her Savior now and reunited with her mom, dad, and the love of her life, Kenny, and was surrounded by all of heaven's eternal glory. But loss because I won't get another early morning text. I won't hear another story told in that one-of-a-kind, only Lori could tell it way. Or a quick hour-plus long phone call. Yeah, that was quick for Lori. But the hardest part of it all comes from knowing that I can't be there in person to say goodbye to my beloved friend, Lori Fletcher. Due to living in Texas now with a quick turnaround of the service, there just wasn't enough time to get there. And honestly, if I can be honest and vulnerable with you, that just really breaks my heart. And I would give anything to be sitting among her friends and family, hearing the laughter through tears, watching the slideshow of memories that we all hold so dear to our hearts of our friend Lori. But this episode is my verbal letter, and it's the best way I know how to honor her, with my voice, with my heart, and with the story that we shared together. Because Lori wasn't just a friend, she was ultimately a safe place, a spiritual anchor, a mentor, and my biggest wingman. Yeah, believe it or not, she was. Because Lori was the type of person that I would turn to when life was heavy, when faith felt distant, or when I just needed to feel seen. And the way that she loved, it was rare, it was deep, and it was real. So today I just want to share with you a little bit of Lori, and I want you to know the Lori that I knew. The Lori who showed up, who gave all of herself, who loved without limits, and who left this world better than she found it. This episode is titled A Letter to Lori, and it comes straight from the heart. From the part of my heart that is grieving, but that is also grateful. Grateful because I knew her, grateful because I loved her, and grateful because now I have one more guardian angel watching over me in heaven. So, wherever you are, driving, walking, folding laundry, maybe just sitting alone with a cup of coffee, I want to ask you to be still and to pause with me and sit with me in this space. Remember with me someone whose story deserves to be heard. So, to Lori, wherever you may be in heaven listening to this podcast episode is for you. For every early morning message, for every conversation that left me feeling seen, heard, and deeply understood. For the times that you reminded me that faith wasn't just about perfection, but it was about walking with grace, even when the road got rough. For the way that you believed in people, especially the ones who didn't believe in themselves. for the light you carried, even when life had dimmed your own. For every time you showed up, not just for me, but for so many others in the Conrad community, with love, with truth, and with that kind of Lori kind of warmth that made people feel like they mattered. This letter is my way of sitting down beside you one last time, my friend. I just want to say thank you. I wanted to say I love you, and I will carry you with me in my story, in my faith, and in the way I choose to love others. Lori, I hope heaven's sunrises are just as breathtaking as the ones that you used to tell me about. Those quiet, early mornings on your front porch in the greatest one-stop-light town in America. I can still picture you sitting there, wrapped up in a blanket, watching the sky wake up. I always will remember, after Kenny passed, I prayed to God and asked him to show me a beautiful sunset. Just one that would feel gentle and a nod from the heavens that Kenny is okay. A reminder that he is walking there with us. And what did God do? He delivered. That he did. He lit up the sky with colors that didn't feel random, but they felt like a whisper from above. And now, Lori, I find myself praying again, but this time I'm asking God for a sunrise, a beautiful, quiet, holy sunrise that will remind me of you, of the way your messages would come in before the world even stirred, of how you always found a way to reach people when they needed it most, even if it was at 4 a.m. in the recliner with half a message in the draft. So now I look to the east in the early hours, and when the sky starts to glow, I'll smile through the tears and say, "There you are, my friend. I see you." And that will be your wink from heaven that everything is okay and that you are okay. But let's be honest, it'll also be a miracle if I'm up in time to see it, because you and I both know I was never the early riser in this friendship. You were the one that was always waking before me, waking me up with a novel-length text before I even hit snooze. But for you, Lori, I promise that I will try not to sleep the day away, and I'll be there for the sunrise. I hope there's laughter and stories in the middle of the night chats with Kenny, because I know you guys have 6 years of catching up to do. And honestly, I can't decide who's going to chat the other's ear off first. You or him. My money's on you. I'm sure you've already pulled up a heavenly recliner and settled in with a nice cup of coffee and started filling Kenny in on everything that he missed down here on Earth, with all the vivid details, the emojis, and the Kennyisms to boot. And I hope somewhere in between the laughter and reminiscing, you just feel how deeply you were loved down here on Earth. Because you were. More than words can say. So wherever you may be in the heavens, Lori, I just want to take this moment, and I want to take these words and this episode and dedicate it to you. Because ultimately, they are all for you. Lori passed away just a few days ago, and my heart is still trying to catch up with that reality. Because I live in Texas and the service came together so quickly, I won't be able to be there in person to say my goodbye. And that truly breaks my heart more than I can fully express. But if there was any way I could have made it, I would have, and you know that. But even from a distance, I knew I had to do something. Something that felt true to who she was and what she meant to me. So I decided to honor her in the only way I really know how, by storytelling and by sharing not just what she did for me, but who she was to everyone around her. Lori's story isn't just important because of the impact she had on me. It's important because of the impact she had on all of us. Her love, her kindness, her strength, and the way she made everyone feel like they mattered. That is the legacy of Lori Fletcher. I want to remember and celebrate her today because Lori didn't just touch lives, she changed them. And that is a story worth telling within its own. I met Lori back in 2017 on the night of my senior prom. The theme was a night in Paris, and it was hosted in the Commons of Conrad High School, and the Commons had been transformed into a dreamy Paris scene with twinkling lights, soft music filling the air, and I was just a high school kid caught up in the excitement of it all. Then there were Lori and her husband Kenny. They weren't your typical chaperones who stood off to the side, blending into the background. No, they showed up as it was their own prom night themselves. Lori was dressed up and was there right next to Kenny. Both of them in grand fashion, radiating joy, laughing, dancing, and fully embracing the moment. What stood out to me is they didn't just stand around, they became part of the celebration, making the night feel even more alive. Later on in our friendship, Lori told me that was a date night tradition for them, and I could see why, because it's a perfect way for them to share the joy of life together. I remember watching them that prom night and thinking, wow, that's love right there. That's what it looks like to live fully, to love fully, and to be present in a way that makes everyone else around you feel it. Like I said, they weren't just chaperones. They were living in the moment with us kids, making it feel like we were all one big family. And that was the best prom of my high school career. Because it wasn't just a prom. It was a memory of warmth and connection. And that's who Lori and Kenny truly were. That memory, that moment, one I will always cherish. It's a reminder to live fully, openly, and with a heart that loves so deeply. I remember just thinking, dang, I hope I can love someone like that someday. Because that night was the start of many lessons that later came from Lori. She showed me that life isn't about standing on the sidelines. It's about diving in, loving with everything you have, and making the most of every moment. And that is truly something that has stayed with me for these last few years and will stay with me forever. It's something that I'll carry forward. I met Lori at the door of prom that night, and Kenny introduced me to his beautiful bride. But little did I know that moment would mark the beginning of a great friendship. One that would shape my life in ways that I truly would never expect. There was something about Lori right from the start. Her warmth, her kindness, and that radiant smile that could light up any room. I remember thinking how lucky Coach Fletcher was, but more than that, how lucky anyone was to be in her presence. She had a way of making you feel seen, heard, and like life truly mattered, just by being herself. I remember that prom night just like it was yesterday. The Commons were just buzzing with excitement, and everyone was celebrating our night out in Paris. But one moment that truly stands with me is when we were at the drink table. Hands slightly trembling as I reached for a cold drink after being on the dance floor. And when Lori walked right up to me, and I'll never forget how she greeted me with a playful smile and said, "Hey there, Mr. Tuxedo, you clean up pretty nice." And even then, her warmth and humor lit up a room. We started talking real down-to-earth conversations. I joked about my nervousness and worried I might trip over my own shoelaces. And she laughed and teased me about the dangers of both shoelaces and slow dances. But Lori said something that night that still resonates with me. She had explained that she and Kenny had made a pact long ago to never stand on the sidelines. She said, if we're going to show up, we're going to do it all out. Why waste a night like this hiding behind the background? And it was just as if she was handing me a little blueprint of her life in that night that we had first met. The blueprint to live fully, to be present, and to embrace every moment, whether big or small, with heart. In that conversation, I realized that Lori wasn't a chaperone or a kind of face among many, but she was the someone who made you feel like you want to be your best self. As she playfully admonished to me that not to spend the whole evening by the punch bowl and to create memories instead, to get out there on the dance floor. I vowed right there that I too would learn to live life with that same unrestrained joy for life. For Lori, every moment was an opportunity to love big and laugh often. And so that conversation at the drink table that night became one of my many lasting memories of Lori. A brief shining moment of clarity. It taught me that sometimes the best advice does not come from long lectures, but in a shared smile and in a playful tease. And in those words, invite you to step out and live. That's the kind of life that Lori lived herself. And that's the life I aspire to carry forward with her legacy. The following summer in 2018, Kenny asked me to water their trees in their backyard while they were out of town. Sure, on the surface, it sounds like a quick, small favor, something easy that you're doing to help out a family friend. Water the trees to keep them alive, just to help out a friend. And honestly, that's exactly how I treated it at first. No big deal, just being a good kid for a couple that I looked up to. Looking back, I've come to realize that what seemed like a small act of watering trees for Kenny and Lori while they were out of town was actually the beginning of something bigger. Like I said, at the time, it felt like something simple, a favor for a family that I admired. But now, with the perspective that only time and loss can bring, I see it for what it truly was. It was a quiet invitation into something sacred. Because that summer, it wasn't just about keeping trees alive, but it was about being trusted, being seen, and welcomed into their world. Every visit to their home, every walk through their backyard with a hose in my hand became something more. I didn't know it then, but I was building something. Slowly and quietly, alongside them. The roots of a friendship were growing beneath the surface. Only now, after Lori's passing, do I truly understand the metaphor. I wasn't just helping the trees thrive, but I was growing deeper roots in my connection with her. The conversations, the laughs, the faith we shared, all of it watered something lasting. And that love she gave, the wisdom she shared, it now lives on in me. In the way that I love people. In the way I try to show up for other people, because she shaped that in me. It was the start of a bond that became one of the most cherishing parts of my life. A quiet beginning that would grow into something deep, rooted, and life-giving. So no, it wasn't just a favor for a family friend, but it was an invitation. It was the beginning of something bigger. A quiet kind of love that didn't show up, but whispered, "You're part of this now." And I thank God that I said yes, because that simple yes led to years of friendship, and led to a friendship that became the richest parts of my story. I'll carry with me this friendship forever. And if you take anything from this, let it be some of life's most beautiful blessings don't come with a grand entrance, but sometimes they come with a garden hose, a patch of soil, and a quiet invitation to grow together. It seemed like a small favor at the time, but looking back, that simple act planted a seed of a much deeper connection, one that would quietly begin to grow and shape for the years ahead. Unfortunately, not long after our friendship had begun to take root, Kenny was diagnosed with brain cancer. I remember hearing those words like it was yesterday. I was in college far away in Dillon, Montana, about 4 hours from my hometown of Conrad. It was a time in my life when I was trying to balance everything at once. Studying for my bachelor's degree in business, working for the athletic department, student government, and above all, I was just trying to figure out the kind of person I was. The kind of person that I was meant to be. But when I heard of Kenny's diagnosis, everything else seemed to just fade into the background. And I honestly felt so helpless and frustrated for being so far away. But I knew I had to be there in any way I could. So when I was home, I would swing by their house whenever I was home from school, and I would just sit there and talk to Kenny. Other times I would check in with Lori. I remember the feeling of walking into their home, seeing both of them fighting through so much, yet still showing up for each other and for everyone around them. The strength, the love, and the grace that they both showed during that time was truly humbling. It wasn't just a battle with cancer, it was a reminder of how much life truly mattered. Even in those hard moments, Kenny's faith, his love for Lori, and his unwavering spirit stood strong. His legacy wasn't in the grandest of gestures or flashy accomplishments, but in the way he loved, the way he fought, and the way that he continued to show up for the people around him. Unfortunately, on February 23rd, 2019, Kenny Fletcher passed away to spend eternity in heaven and would no longer have to fight the brain cancer battle. And I'll be honest with you, Coach Fletcher's passing of 2019 hit me hard. He wasn't just a football coach, but he was a mentor and a friend. The man who had so much life in him, who made every moment count, was now gone. That loss felt heavy, and I couldn't really understand it at the time. But even in his absence, I carry with me the lessons that he had taught me, the way that he lived, and the unwavering faith that he loved. Especially the way he loved Lori, with every passion that made everything brighter. And then, just recently, I faced the heartbreaking reality that Lori was gone as well. She too left this world too soon due to the impacts of cancer. But the impact that she had on me and everyone who knew her will never fade. What Kenny passed on to Lori was the foundation of everything that she had become. The love, the strength, the grace, and the unwavering faith. Lori embodied all of that and more, taking everything that Kenny had taught her and continued to pour into the lives around her. And then she continued to touch everybody's lives around her as well. She had a way of showing up for people and making them feel seen, heard, and loved. Her kindness, her warmth from the inside out, it's just something that I will forever carry with me. And just like Kenny's passing, Lori left a mark that I didn't fully understand. One that I didn't understand at the time, but now I see more clearly. They both showed me how to live with faith, love, and resilience. I see their legacy in the way I try to show up for others, in the way I try to strive to love deeply, and the way that I try to stay rooted in what matters most. Although they are no longer here with us physically, their love lives on in all of us who are blessed to know the Fletchers. And that, I truly believe, is the greatest gift that they left behind. But after Kenny's passing, I still had this feeling, this pull to check in on Lori. And one night I sent her a message on Facebook. Now think about that. I was 19 years old. She was a recent widow, and we didn't know each other that well. But I asked if she'd like some company in these cold Montana nights during the holiday season, when I was home with my family during the holidays. I was very nervous. I wasn't sure if it would be welcome, appropriate, or just found creepy. But Lori didn't hesitate. She opened up with open arms and an open heart. And that message turned into a friendship that had transformed my life. At first, after Kenny passed, our conversations naturally were centered around him. We laughed about his quirks, the way that he'd say things with his Texas drawl in his voice, the little routines that he had. And we cried too. Yeah, the grief was real, but it wasn't too heavy in the way that pushed you away. Lori had a gift of grieving out loud in a way that actually pulled you in. It was raw, yes, but also sacred. Lori let me into her home, and she let me into her world, where she'd paint these vivid stories of Kenny, full of heart and humor. And when she spoke, it was like you could almost feel Kenny sitting there with us, smiling in the background. And over time, something started to shift. The grief didn't go away, but it made room for connection, for laughter, for late night talks that stretched far beyond the pain. And in that season of mourning slowly turned into the foundation of a soul-deep friendship. After Coach Fletcher's passing, Lori did something that I will never forget. She gave me one of his University of Texas sweatshirts. Actually, the very one that I am wearing today. Now, some people might look at this as just a regular black sweatshirt with a burnt orange logo, but to me, it means everything. It's not just an article of clothing, but it's a piece of Kenny and a piece of their story. And now, it's a piece of my story with them. She knew how much I loved the University of Texas football, and she remembered before I even met them, because back in 2016, that summer, I visited the University of Texas campus in Austin, Texas. While I was looking for schools in my undergrad, I was really set on going to the University of Texas. But with her giving me this sweatshirt in the midst of grieving the loss of her husband, left an impression on me. Because somehow, in the middle of her own grief, she took her eyes off of herself and she remembered my interest in the Longhorns. And that's just who Lori was. She noticed the little things. She saw people. She carried your story in her heart and made you feel known in the most personal way. She could have very easily just kept this sweatshirt. And honestly, no one would have blamed her. But she later told me that this sweatshirt was Kenny's favorite, and he wore it all the time. But instead, she gifted it to me. I still remember that day when she gave it to me with tears in her eyes and a soft smile on her face, because she wanted to share him with me. Because she knew how much he meant to me. Because she understood that love doesn't stay locked in a drawer. It's meant to be passed on, lived out, worn close, and celebrated. I'll be honest with you, I don't wear this very often. Not because I don't love it, because I truly do, but because it still carries the faint scent of their home. Their home radiated warmth, peace, and a chapter in my life that has shaped me that I'm still discovering. but every time I pull it over my shoulders, it just feels like a hug from my two guardian angels who I miss deeply. But it also reminds me of Kenny's quiet strength and confidence, and Lori's unshakable heart and loving spirit. So wearing it for you today during this podcast episode isn't just about remembering them, but it's about carrying them with me. Their faith, their love, and ultimately their legacy. This sweatshirt isn't just something that I wear, but it's something I honor. A symbol of true friendship that has shaped me, and a love that lives on. Now, if you ever got a text from Lori, you already know where this is going. Her text messages weren't just texts, but they were full-blown chapters, mini memoirs, usually sent between the early hours of the morning between 4 and 6 a.m. She'd tell me later that I'd fall asleep mid-message in my recliner, wake up, finish the text message thought, and then hit send before the sun ever came up. That was Lori. Present, thoughtful, and totally on her own clock. I'd wake up to a novel. Some mornings it would start with a Kenny quote. Other mornings it would start with a weather update from my hometown. And sometimes it would even be Bible verses. But that was her love language, her way of checking in and staying connected, of making sure that you knew that you mattered, and I loved every little bit of it. Lori quickly became my encourager, my voice of wisdom, my sounding board, but most importantly, my wingman. Anytime I'd start dating someone new, she was one of the first people that I'd tell. I'd send her a picture, and she'd give me her read. After the second girlfriend, I showed her a picture, and she currently discovered a pattern. She said, "Brock, I think you have a type. And I think that type is blonde." And she wasn't wrong. She just knew me, without even trying. As of recently, I started seeing someone new. Yep, another blonde, of course. And I hadn't told Lori yet. I was waiting for the right moment to do so, to share the news with my friends, my family, and her. But I never got the chance. However, last Sunday morning, I was sitting in church when I got the message that Lori had gone home to heaven. And in that moment, a quiet peace settled over me. And in my heart, I like to believe that was her way of giving me the final blessing. A gentle, "I see you, young man, and I approve of this one." The news hit hard, but it came with a wave of calm and deep remembrance, as if Lori herself was wrapping me in one last hug from above. Emotion filled my eyes as I sang one last song of worship, carrying her memory with every single word that I sang. But what I'll miss the most are the moments that made Lori uniquely Lori. The way that she could paint a memory with her words so vividly that you felt you lived it too. Those early morning text messages that came at the right time when you needed them. The family updates, the little wins, the honest prayers, the talks that drifted into deep waters. Talks about grief, hope, resilience, and about walking with the Lord through it all. And the way that she'd sign off after every text message was, "Love you bunches and gobs." It wasn't just her catchphrase, but it was her heart on full display. Actually, it was pure Kenny, adopted by Lori, to share with the ones that she loved most. And that's something that I truly admire about Lori, is even when she was struggling physically, emotionally, she would still pour out love into other people around her. She fought cancer, she wrestled with grief, she faced tough days, and yet she still stayed kind, she still stayed funny, and she still stayed Lori. She didn't live halfway. She was all in. She loved big, and if you were loved by her, you knew every little bit of it. with every fiber of your being. So what do we do with that kind of loss? Well, we learn to live like Lori, to show up fully, to love without holding back, to text people we care about, even if it is at 4 a.m., to say what needs to be said, to pray for people out loud, to find the little joys in everyday things, to carry others' pain like it's our own, and to remember that faith doesn't mean life is easy. It means we keep showing up when it's not. I want to end this letter with a verse that has been in my heart since I got the news. It's 2 Timothy 4:7. And in the Bible it states, "I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith." That verse is not just about endings, but it's a testimony to the journey well lived. Lori fought the good fight, not just against cancer, but through grief of losing her husband, uncertainty, and everything that life threw her way. She finished her race with a spirit that never quit, and most of all, she kept her faith. And that's how I will truly remember her, and how I want to challenge myself to continue to live through her. So as I close out this episode, this letter to Lori, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me share her story, our friendship, and the beautiful way she left her mark on my life. Lori Fletcher was more than just a friend. She was a light, a safe place, a reminder that love can show up in unexpected seasons and stay with you forever. And although she's no longer here with us in the way that we'd hope, I carry her with me every single day. In the way that I encourage others, in the way I love more boldly, in the way I show up for other people, even when it's inconvenient for myself. Why? Because that's what Lori taught me. So wherever you're listening from, hug someone a little bit tighter today. Send that long text message. Laugh a little louder, pray a little deeper, and remember, the legacy that we leave isn't about how long we're here, but how deeply we love while we are here. So Lori, I know you're listening in spirit. I know you're in heaven, and I know you're reunited with Kenny and your parents. And I can only imagine the stories that you're telling up there. I just want to say thank you for being my friend, my encourager, my wingman, and now my guardian angel. I love you bunches and gobs, my dear friend. And I know I have gained a new guardian angel, and I will carry you with me forever and always. Everyone listening, thank you for listening to this moment with me. I hope Lori's story had touched your heart just like she had touched mine. As always, I'm Brock Doty, and I'll see you next week. God bless.